My name is Michael Ryan Miranda. I'm currently the Director for Human Resources, Marketing, and Sustainability for DSV here in the Philippines. So, I've been hiring for quite some time already. It's a mix of either we're hiring direct employees for the company or we're outsourcing the creative services through a third-party provider for the services under marketing. Siguro what's an obvious difference? The creative people who are well-versed in the corporate world already, the portfolio tends to be more technical, meaning it's more product soft launches, commercials, infomercials, or diagrams, or maybe just walkthroughs of their facility or sites. For fresh graduates, we typically see more inspirational content, more storytelling, which is a big difference. I'm not saying that having either more of one is better, but it's really just a diverse collection difference. No? You really have to study which company you're applying for. Hindi siya umbrella na ito na yung best works ko, because your best work about surfing may not make sense for someone who's doing logistics, for example. We'd want to see your content focusing on architecture, because the films that you'll be shooting for me will be revolving about warehouses. So mas may sense sa akin yun. Your content or your films about stories about the people may not really make sense, for example, for a company in manufacturing. Kasi ang gusto namin, we want to focus on the storytelling of the process, not really on the emotional side of it. So when people apply, the research before really has to be done para makater mo yung ibibigay mo na portfolio dun sa HR. Simplicity ng words, number one. Kasi most of the material ng corporate is out to the general public. We don't expect people to know the jargons. We don't expect people to really spend more than one brain cell to understand the infomercial. Kailangan very easy siya, madali sa pandinig. So rather than maybe big English words, it's really more of the simplicity of the content. Number two, gaano kabilis ma-portray yung message ng film. Kasi you have to admit it, for the corporate clients, limited din ng budget nila. So they will typically ask you for a 1 minute to 1 minute and a half content, and they have a lot of things they want to say. So ang kailangan mong i-make sure is snappy siya, and nag-iintindihan ko ano ba yung focus ng video mo na to, ano ba yung pinapahatid mo sa akin as the audience. So maybe those are the first two things I really want to focus on. And then the third is really more on the quality of the shot. At the end of the day, it has to be pleasing visually. Although nagva-vary naman yan sa preference din ng company, no? And they also have to play in part yung branding guidelines nila. So that's maybe a third item to look at. Yes, so I mentioned that earlier, no? It's the same as how you're creating a specific CV for the position that you're applying for. For example, if you're applying for a flight attendant, you'd want your CV to have your photo, to have your personality traits. But that doesn't make sense if you're applying for analytics. We don't really care how you look. So modern CVs now don't really have the pictures in them. So it's the same as how you cater the plate that you're offering. You have to also cater your portfolio na ibibigay mo. I think it's just plain laziness na you have just one portfolio and i-apply mo siya sa lahat sa jobs. Click ka. It also creates a negative impression from our side. Kasi it gives me an impression na you didn't have enough care or enough time for this position to give me something specific from the role that you're applying for. I think more on the content talaga. Yes, kanina minamention ko parang number 3 na yung visuals kasi it's preferential, no? Importante talaga sa akin yung words. I'm not sure if I'm saying it as a writer as well. But at the end of the day, yung content has to be delivered properly. So very important sa akin na well-articulated, simple words ang ginagamit, and madali talagang maintindihan. Makikita mo yung flow of thought And again, I think there was a study na ilang seconds lang ang attention span ng tao. And kung post mo siya sa LinkedIn profile, you only have 14 seconds, I think, to capture. And that has to be clear. I would say yes. More on the angle that it gives us an impression that you were able to give more time for the position that you're applying for. I won't really pay too much dun sa content. Kasi I assume it's generic. Iniiba na lang yung field, iniiba na lang yung siguro one or two traits to make them a good fit dun sa application. But having the cover letter gives you already a difference. Just to say, based on our experience, out of 10 applicants, only 2 would have a cover letter. And that immediately puts you up against the other CVs. Kasi nga, may impression ako na, uy, this person cares about my company a little bit more than the other vacancies that he's applying for. So may ganong impression, I really have to admit. Buzzwords. People think, or fresh graduates think that if they drop the buzzwords, yung mga big words, the corporate jargons, I am very adaptable, I am key to detail, blah, 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 blah. It makes them more attractive. Akin, I feel that it makes them less authentic. Sa akin, nagsa-stand out talaga sa akin kung okay yung personality. Doon sa program na na-mention ko kanina na in-interview ko yung fresh graduates, people are very well qualified in black and white. They have certifications, they have experiences, they have internships. Pero sa akin, hindi sila nag-stand out. Ang nag-stand out sa akin yung mga tao na naiintindihan. When I speak to them, sir, oo, alam ko yan, ganito yan, ganyan. Sir, sa akin kasi ganito. You know, the connection, kasi if they are willing to understand and they are in that situation, ganun din yung impression sa akin pag nasa trabaho na sila. Alam nila kung ano yung expected sa kanila on that specific time, on that specific place. And finding a real person, or at least finding a candidate that's able to put forward the real them, it's very difficult kasi it takes confidence, it takes comfort, it takes, bakit ba? Ito ko and I really want this job. Ito ko. Ganun lang siya. So I think authenticity is really where I'm looking at. No? I would say, funnily, is there's a lot of heavy lifting, especially if you're doing events. I think it's understated. I can count how many boxes na binuhat ko for a Christmas party. May dala kaming speaker, may dala kaming ilaw. Hindi ko alam kung ilang beses ko ginawa yon. Even as I progress in my career, may bit-bit pa rin ako lagi talaga nagamit. So that's one, understated siya. Number 2, I think at the end of the day, we have to admit that once you enter the corporate world, you won't be as creative as you want to be. We can always say na, hindi kaya nga tayo na-hire to think outside the box. At the end of the day, you still have the 4 walls of the corporate guidelines. You're free to roam around, maybe go above a little bit, pero you still have to function within this set of expectations. It's a little bit sad, but if you think about it, sa akin, it's a challenge Sige nga, how creative can you be within the 4 walls of the corporate guidelines, no? So you can take it as a pro dun sa opportunity na yan. Pero I don't think people talk about it a lot na wala, hindi ka talaga medyo limiting siya rather than a freelancer. Adaptability is very more important. Skills can be learned. You have courses, you have trainings. I think even sa creative field, diba, meron at meron ka matututunan. Iba pa rin naman yung innate talent, pero at the end of the day, matututunan mo siya So adaptability is really a key thing for you. Ano ba yung message? Ano ba yung tone of voice ng CEO ko? Pag mayroon akong documentary or mayroon siyang speech na kailangan natin i-record or message for the employees, kailangan mo siyang matutunan. Kasi it gives you more flexibility than you would want to admit. Sasabihin mo nalilimit ka kasi ito yung pinapagawa sa'yo, pero na-realize mo, kahit ito yung pinagawa sa akin, nagawa ko pa rin tong output na to. So, mas may weight talaga sa akin yung adaptability. I think una, or at least main advice, huwag niyong ilimit yung sarili niyo. I think as creatives, we fall into the trap na creative ako I can only do artistic stuff. I can only do multimedia. I want people to realize that creativity is not a technical skill. It's a soft skill. Meaning, you have the skill to reimagine things. Makakuha ng diskarte. Makakuha ng different angle. It's a soft skill. you can apply it not just in multimedia. I can speak as well, in my experience handling creatives. Mas madiskarte sila eh. They have opportunities maybe in process excellence. Kasi they keep on asking, bakit ganito yung ginagawa natin? Nakakatamad, ang pangit naman ng output. So, don't fall into the trap na yun lang siya. You have to appreciate yourself in what you can do, what you're able to think, what you're able to imagine. And ang daming applications nun sa corporate world. HR, solutions design, project implementation, marketing itself, no? Even the management teams. Kailangan ng certain discarte, kailangan ng certain question mark when you're in the corporate world. And creatives typically have that. Ang problema lang, they feel that hindi to para sa kanila. Maybe I feel that dinidismiss nila na hindi, dito ako sa camera lens. But look at it, they will be very good in Excel. Siguro sa numbers, hindi masyado ako bobo ko sa numbers, pero yun lang, na-undervalue kasi siya. Hindi siya end goal, na pag creative ka, dito ka lang talaga pupunta. I think people needs to start venturing out. You have more value than just the creative. I'm not saying that it's not enough. I'm just saying that there are more options for people who consider themselves as creative. There was one advice dun sa boss ko before. Sabi niya sa akin, Ken, you have to realize, people who think outside of the box are typically those that stand out. But they have to know when to fall in line. So yung mindset na you're different, you have a kind of a tendency to look at things very differently, no? Automatically stand out ka. That can be in a good way or in a bad way. So una, i-appreciate mo yun. That's good thing. That's a good quality, I think, no? But you also need to be able to put your mind within the mindset na, wait lang, may sinusunod akong company rules. I can shout, yun nga, kanina, you fall in line, but you can shout as loud as you can. So, ganung mindset. Be aware na hindi rin dapat masyadong extreme, na you basically are forcing your personality into the corporation, no? That's a red flag. O yun nga, yung sagot ko kanina, that's a red flag immediately. So, have that mindset na you're free to be as creative as you can. Sumunod ka lang din. And I really think you would really do better. And you can really grow regardless kung anong industry yan. I think that would vary. In the adult world, success is defined differently by different people. For some, success is just going home by 6 p.m. and having some time to spend with their family. For some, success is promotion after 2 years. For some, it's not about the title, it's about the compensation. Successful ako kung first job ko, 50,000 na yung sahod ko. So, ang key idea dyan is, how do you define success for yourself? Ano ba yung goals na sinet mo sa sarili mo? If you said to yourself before graduating that I feel na makapasok lang ako sa MNC, multinational company, for my first job, okay ako. That's a successful first move for me. And you have to celebrate it. Tama yung sinasabi nila na don't pattern your life story to another person's. Because you'll never be successful. Kailangan klaro sa'yo ano yung gusto mong ma-achieve. And once you achieve it, you celebrate it. People fail to celebrate things. Lagi silang, ito pa lang ang nakukuha ko, hindi pa to enough. Wala namang runner na pagtapos na mag-cross dun sa ribbon, sabi na, hindi, may 5 miles pa ako. You have to stop and cheer for yourself. So if you are able to define what that moment means to you, whether again, it's promotion, whether it's having a fun environment, baka naman mas okay ka na, masaya yung office mates mo. You have to stop and think, ito na yung success. And then you recognize that moment. And then you say to yourself, congratulations, ito na siya. That is more than enough of accomplishment for a young professional.